happy that Amy Wynn has offered to do a presentation for us about the American Mural Project. Amy has a long and interesting career, including, among many other things, being a dancer and being the director of the Northwest Connecticut Arts Council, and now the director of the American Mural Project. She and her husband Eli and her kids are long-term residents of the town of Falls Village and long-term supporters of the Hunt Library. So thank you so much, Amy, for doing this. I think the way we're going to proceed is Amy will talk for a while. You all should feel free to put whatever questions you have in the chat, and I will either ask her the questions along the way or we'll save a few minutes at the end for any other questions that you might have. Okay, sound good? What I would suggest, since most of the presentation is going to be with a shared screen, you might want to pin Amy's video. So go to the little box that has Amy's face in it, and there should be 3 little dots at the top right, at least mine are at the top right. You click on that and you'll get a drop-down menu, and you can see something that says pin. And if you see pin, then you'll only see Amy's face, except when there's a share screen, she'll be over on the side. Okay? Any questions, put them in the chat, and I'm going to mute everybody so that extraneous noises don't interrupt us. And I'm now going to turn it over to Amy. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Barbara. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to this presentation about the American Mural Project, or AMP, as we fondly call it. Founded in 2001. Boy, we're coming of age soon. AMP is a nonprofit organization that is focused on honoring work by giving dignity to the American worker and by inspiring people of all ages about their own possibilities for work. And at the organization center is the creation of the largest mural, the largest indoor collaborative artwork in the world. It's a 3-dimensional mural, 120 feet long and 48 feet high. I'm just going to share the study of the mural with you right now. Hopefully, yes. So nothing like this exists in the world that we know. It's very heavy and very 3-dimensional. The American Mural Project is also the name of the institution in which the mural and other exhibits will be housed in 2 historic mill buildings in Winsted, Connecticut. AMP is about more than just showing the mural and the exhibits, though. AMP also offers a variety of educational programs for all ages around the topic of work and creativity, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Artist Ellen Griesedieck first conceived of the mural in 1999 when she felt inspired by the scale of Boeing's 747 fabrication plant, which she had visited in preparation of her latest in a series of commissioned paintings of working Americans. Ellen realized that her own 2 children were largely unaware of the work being done around them, its power, beauty, and satisfactions she felt in her work as an artist. While creating the study of the mural, she began to see the project as an opportunity to inspire and challenge others, especially children, not only by depicting this work in the mural, but by involving them in the mural's creation. The mural celebrates and recognizes workers. What they do matters, and what they do makes it possible for all of us within our communities to function and thrive within those communities. Think of a truck driver who makes it possible for our stores to stock a wide range of foods and clothing too. The linemen and electricians up on the street poles, and the electricians who make it possible for us to have light and power, to phone one another, to have access to internet like we have right now, and television, and to share our photos via text. And think about the crews who pave our roads so that we can drive safely. and clear our roads, our great town road crews, make it safe to drive in the winter. And the healthcare professionals, teachers, librarians, post office and delivery workers, farmers, fishermen, police officers, firefighters, bankers, and more. Of course, the mural is not about depicting all of those different types of works, but it is about waking us up to the art of work happening around us every day. Over the next 20 plus years, Ellen met many workers in various vocations from around the country who inspired her, whose stories she learned about, personal stories, who eventually became subjects in the mural. She painted them as larger than life representations on honeycomb aluminum panels in her Sharon, Connecticut studio, often in sections because they were so wide and tall. All of these people are real people in the mural. Also during this time, Ellen and the AMP team were engaging community members throughout the country, especially groups of kids. These groups explored different work being done in their communities and collaboratively created art projects that would eventually become part of the mural exhibit. Over the years, AMP has engaged over 15,000 kids from over 17 states in such projects, some of which have already been installed as part of the mural. After years of creating sections like this with groups and on her own,
Can I just
Ellen,
interrupt you 1 second, Amy? I don't really understand about the kind of projects that the kids would be doing that would get incorporated into the uh, mural. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
well, here's an example. This is a foundry worker. And this foundry worker, you can see it in the bright oranges and yellows, is a real person who Ellen got to know. And this piece is not made out of the honeycomb aluminum. It's made of ceramics. It was created by over 250 kids in 3 states and 8 different schools. And I'll just go backtrack. Here's some of the photos of some of those kids working on this project. There are lots of photos available on our website of each of these different projects. So these kids worked on this project, and they were from Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New York. Largely high school and middle school kids from this corner of Connecticut, as well as down in Spanish Harlem and up in the Berkshires. So there are lots of other projects that have also been part of this. I'll go back if I can find another one for you as another example. So here is a piece of the mural that is also installed. This character is named Stitch, and he's a heavy machinery mechanic that you saw earlier in the slideshow. And these are kids from a Navajo reservation out in the Southwest, and they were helping to make the tiles on Stitch's shirt, which eventually Stitch is now installed. Actually, he was on the section of the mural that was installed first. So I don't know if that helps you understand that a little bit better, Barbara?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad you stopped me on that one. So I'm just going to hop ahead. Now, some of these projects that have been created by community members will not be installed directly in the 3-dimensional mural, but will be installed either in other parts of AMP, and in particular in the upper rear gallery, which runs behind the mural, actually. And I'll talk a little bit about the structure of the actual mural building now. So here's a before and after pair of photos of AMP's front building. There are 2 buildings that AMP owns. The buildings on this part of Whiting Street, and there were 9 originally, and we own 2 of the 6 remaining, they used to be part of an old textile mill that made knitted products, most notably hosiery. So here's the original building. This is the building as it exists now. The buildings in the background on the left are Whiting Mills, by the way. So this old hosiery factory, in fact, the legend has it, back in the day when baseball players wore knickers, the factory made the tall socks for the rival teams of the Red Sox and the Yankees. And the buildings are over 100 years old. They're on the historic register. And in fact, during one visit last year, before COVID, I guess that was over a year ago, we had a wonderful woman come from Salisbury whose husband actually worked in the building when it was a textile mill. And it was wonderful to talk to her. In renovating the building, AMP made the two-story structure into one large open space in order to fit the mural. Besides taking out the division between the two floors, the roof had to be raised in order to fit steel armature on which the five-story mural would be installed. This created a wide open cathedral-like space. It was quite a project. There is actually a time-lapse photograph of this process, which always blows me away, but I didn't want to use up the time to show that. It took well over a year. After this portion of the construction was finished, Ellen and the crew began installing the mural in sections in 2019. Besides moving all of the artwork into AMP's building from the studio, the installation project is very involved. The sections needed to be reassembled and prepared for installation. The floor of the mural building became a sea of sawhorses on which the large sections would lay face up as Ellen and her crew screwed them together and cut out their silhouetted shapes and prepared the lifts for raising them into place, often with two scissor lifts. The mural is approximately 80% installed to date, by the way, and you'll see some more photos later on as it shows a little bit more current images. This is one of the mural subjects, Edwin, and he's a police officer in New York City, and his very, very large profile is smack center of the mural and rested in the building for quite a time until he was prepared for installation. Now, one thing that's very, very challenging for me is to give you a sense of the scale of this massive work in the building. In these next photos, you will see a view from the mid-level viewing platform of the mural as it was a few months ago. And here is a photo of two colleagues on the first viewing platform. And finally, a view from the other end of the mid-level viewing platform. So all of these really emphasize the mid-level viewing platform. This year, the stairs and elevators to the two viewing platforms, one of which you can see in the photos, and one still to be built, will be installed, along with the highest viewing platform and all the guardrails. Very important. Viewing platforms create a spiral path around and behind the mural where there will be numerous community projects exhibited. We call it the rear mural gallery. It will be like a tunnel of art. Keep in mind that this is just the first of two AMP buildings that will be renovated. The rear building will house space for education workshops, event and exhibit space as well. The two buildings will be joined by a two-level glass atrium. We plan to open the first building, the one that I'm showing here in this image, in May 2022, by the way, formally with regular hours on the weekends and a few weekdays. We spend.
Once the mural is all installed, will the mural itself stay as it is, stay static, or will it change over time?
It will stay as is, and there will be other changing exhibits, and there will be other interpretive aspects of the exhibit as well. So for instance, we have numerous recordings of different mural subjects who talk about their work, what work means to them, and kind of talk about how their work connects to their community. So people will be able to listen to those. They'll also be able to see images and a kind of a storyboard of how the different community projects were created as well. So there are a lot of interpretive elements that will also engage people as they look at the mural. It's very, very overwhelming at first glance. And so we hope that people will take time to kind of soak it in and utilize the different interpretive tools that will help them understand different parts and the whole of the mural as well. And that they'll come back and take it in a bit at a time. But the mural itself will be permanently installed. There will be changing exhibits in different parts of the facility as well, though.
What kind
But
of exhibits? What kind of exhibits?
there will be exhibits around the theme of work and about different projects that kids or community members have done at AMP, or there may be invited exhibits also around the theme of work, because Ellen is certainly not the only one who celebrates work in her artistry. It's just the way that she has chosen to do it. But there have been people who've done it through all kinds of different focuses. We've been speaking to 2 other artists recently who've been doing work like this, but not on the same scale and not in the same way. So we really think it's interesting to help people understand the art of work that goes around us every day in lots of different ways, not only through the mural, but also through other exhibits that will be shown at AMP.
Thanks.
Sure. And of course, we spend the majority of our waking hours working. And we do our best work, especially with others, collaboratively. We take pride in a job well done, I think. Mural is a celebration of working Americans, and it also aims to inspire those entering the job force. Even before formally opening to the public, AMP is busy working to inspire young people through its education programs. So here you see, and I'll start a series of slides to show you a little bit about the education programs. This is our WIT, or Worker in Training program. It's a great way for high school seniors and college students to experience a work environment that is collaborative. And also it's a great way for them to find out if they're truly interested in pursuing a certain career direction through opportunities provided at AMP. These may be in the areas of education, community engagement, administration, or video production. The latter, video production, involves AMP's Digital Storywork intern program, which is offered each summer for 2 weeks. There are quite a few impressive video projects that these young adult teams have produced for AMP. Some of them can be seen on our website, and if we have time today, I may show some for you as well. And there's the CHAMP After School program in its 3rd year, and it's a partnership with our local elementary school in Winsted, and it's for students K through 6. Normally, pre-COVID, this program would have occurred at AMP twice a week for the students, but this year we had to launch an interactive session for these kids that is remote, where they all see, hear, and can speak with the teaching artist and can play games, share their project work, ask questions. This is an example of how our interns are a key part of the team in ensuring the teaching artist is supported and can engage fully with the students for a session that is as near as possible to in person. The students who interned this year are from Northwest Connecticut Community College, and they were invaluable to us. And we have AMP's in-school programs, and they involve an AMP teaching artist being at the school for approximately a week of sessions, sometimes more, and they work sometimes with every student, and they're working with every student in the school at times, depending on the project. Focus is on the theme of work in the community and usually results in what we call an all-school mural that stays on site at that school. Pre-COVID, AMP had 6 of these residencies set up for 2019-20. We're starting up on these again now, actually, and 3 that were started are being completed either this spring or next fall. Then there's the Summer at AMP program for both younger kids and tweens, and it takes place right at AMP, often in our wooded outdoor classroom. Weekly themes vary, but they're all led by expert teaching artists who create an atmosphere that allows for student-led learning, which is key for us. 2020, last summer, was very different, as you can imagine, with AMP reducing the offerings to only 2 weeks of what we called outdoor design and build for tweens who understood social distancing, of course, and who worked almost always outside. So, such is what COVID demanded. These kids designed and built so many things for the outdoor classroom. A wonderful short video about the outdoor design and build program, produced by our digital storywork interns, actually can be seen on our website's education/summer program tab if you're curious. This year, we're back to in-person sessions with protocols in place, of course. And 3 of the 6 week-long programs are already sold out with waiting lists, we're happy to say. It looks like it's going to be a very busy summer at AMP. Of course, AMP pre-COVID also was providing we also provided field trips for schools where about 50 to 75 kids would come into the building and see the mural installation progress. They'd learn about AMP and Ellen's big idea for honoring work. And they'd also do a lot of short creative projects led by our education director. And it wasn't just about the theme of work, but it was also talking to them about the possibility to make ideas that they might have actually into reality the way Ellen did. So we're starting to schedule these field trips again for the fall. Hopefully everything will go as planned. Lastly, as far as education programs, AMP offered the rare professional development opportunity for grade school art teachers. When school districts set up professional learning days for their faculty, art teachers are often simply placed in an academic focused workshop. But in 2019, some districts asked AMP to set something up just for their district's art teachers. It was a huge success, and we hope to offer these again in the coming school year, of course. Now this year, or starting this coming month, May, we'll once again host public tours so that people can see the progress on the mural's installation. And you can reserve a spot on one of those upcoming tours to see the mural directly in person. And those tours are scheduled for Saturday and Sunday, May 22nd and 23rd, right at AMP in Winsted. You can make a day of it also by visiting our neighbors at Whiting Mills as they host their annual spring open studios. AMP hopes that by giving honor to all types of work, blue collar, white collar, technical, artistic, or agricultural work will help young people feel good about whatever job they choose. And work matters, and the way we do it makes a big difference. Now, if we have time, I could certainly share one of the videos if people would like about AMP, or I'm happy to take questions.
I do have one question, and that is about unions who are, certainly critical to work in this country. Have you had any coordination with unions? Does the project talk at all about labor history or the role of unions in this country?
No, it doesn't address unions specifically. Many of the workers who are depicted in the mural are members of unions, but it doesn't speak about that aspect of work specifically. No. No other questions? I'm happy to show something else that might.
In the chat. If anybody has questions, you can put them in the chat. How did Ellen meet all these workers?
Oh, lots of different ways. It started out, of course, when Ellen was doing her commissioned work by different businesses, and because she was very interested in workers, she found herself on gigs that were very unexpected. She was on the steel beams of the West Side Highway as it was being repaired, and sections of it were being built. And so she met the welders up there. She asked, she just simply asked. She says, I'm interested in this. She read about some people in the newspaper. She was introduced to others by friends. And sometimes she just introduced herself and said, this is the kind of work I really admire. She found herself in the New York Times print shop at one point. She found herself, as I mentioned, on steel beams at the West Side Highway. She followed a beat of a police officer in New York City, as well as a firefighter in Canarsie. And then, of course, there are people right next door. There are farmers who she knows right next door to her own house in Sharon, Connecticut, who inspired her and who she got to know. And she asked them if she could include them in the mural. And lots of people often ask us, does she work from photographs? Because Ellen is very tiny. She's smaller than me. She's wiry and strong. She can go up and down the highest ladder, lickety split. She really is an amazing person. But the images that she creates are humongous. And I often wonder, how does she do that in proportion and to scale? But that's the skill of an artist. That's just the amazing thing about an artist. But what's interesting is that she doesn't actually work directly from photos. She does take a lot of photos as part of her studies, but she compiles all of the information she has gathered while she talks to the subject, while she photographs them, while she learns people's reaction to them on the job, and she composes a portrait of them working for the mural that is a combination of all those things, of photographs, of thoughts, of impressions, and things like this. So lots of people ask that question. She also works in acrylics. The honeycomb aluminum panels that she works on are 4x8 panels, and she has to put a number of them together to get her canvas to the size that will host the image that she has in mind. So when you go on the back and you look at the back of the mural, which is always accessible to people to see, you can see how they're all kind of locked together by hardware. And that's how Ellen works. She puts her canvas together in that way. Any other questions?
We certainly have become acutely aware over the last year of the importance of certain kinds of workers who are sometimes really invisible, whether it's grocery store stock clerks or nurses' aides or, truck drivers. Is the artwork on the mural now complete, or is there going to be anything that particularly references what's been going on the last year?
Well, AMP does more than just the mural, as I mentioned to you. So that's part of our programming. We did a lot of social media, and on our website we have something called Work Matters, where we profile different artists. I mean, not different artists, different workers from our community and from communities far and wide. All different kinds of people reflecting how they've dealt with their work during the pandemic, and how suddenly their work has become much, much more important or recognized as what they call essential. To AMP, what's interesting and most interesting to Ellen, especially because she's been at the forefront of all of this, over the years, over 20 years, people have stopped Ellen and said, after 9/11 or after a hurricane or after some kind of crisis, including this pandemic, they often stop her and say, "Oh, how timely. Oh, how wonderful that you are bringing our attention to this. How important these people are, these first responders or these essential workers." And yeah, and Ellen's reply and our reply now as a team is, these people and workers they're essential all the time. Everybody's work matters. And it's not just in a crisis that we should be recognizing them and valuing them. People, when they really approach their work with purpose and integrity, they make an incredible difference to how our lives, our communities function. We just would not have the same type of community if we didn't have everyone collaborating to make things move and function. So it's interesting how the pandemic has brought a lot of attention to it, but Ellen has found that several times over the last 2 decades, crises bring people's attention to this time and time again. And we just hope that this time people will not stop paying attention to the fact that all work has value. We did a very interesting presentation at the end of April. It was a tribute to American workers, and you can see that on YouTube, on Vimeo. It's posted on AMP's website. It's a good thing to put your feet up, get a glass of wine or beer or your favorite beverage, and spend the hour to really get to know the stories behind AMP. It's really well put together. We presented it, as I said, at the end of April, and we were very surprised at the number of people who signed on to watch. And more surprising was the number of people on social media and on YouTube that actually stayed to watch the whole thing, because it was so engaging and it really pulled you through the whole story. Not just of what AMP is about, but the importance of workers in our communities. And I'm happy to share one video, if you'd like, that I often do share about one of the workers, if you'd like. Shall I give that a try?
Sure.
Okay. Let me just see if I can do that. Here I am. Excuse me while I turn my head to get things set for you. So this next video that you'll see is, I hope it will be shared in a way that will be good quality for you to see. Let's see, that is not the one I wanted. Hold on a second, just a second more. Let's see. This is this particular person that I'm going to be sharing with you. Her name is Melissa Bennett, and she is a firefighter. And she has a good short story to share. So here she goes. Hope it works. Optimize and share.
One word to define the American worker is, for what I do, I would say nobility. I'm Melissa Bennett. I'm a firefighter at Engine 257 in Canarsie, Brooklyn. When I first got here, knowing that I was going to be the only girl, I knew that I had to make some kind of impression. So I came in here with a cake, and when they opened the cake, it said, "It's a girl." When I was in college, a professor came to me and said, "You're so quiet, you look pretty strong. I think you should become a firefighter." And I said, "Firefighter? There's no women firefighters." My family's reaction was, they were always happy because I was excelling, but I hid becoming a firefighter until the day before I graduated, because I knew that they would tell me not to do it. They deter me from doing it. So the day before graduation, I got my mother dressed and I said, hey, I'm graduating. I'm going to be a firefighter. And there was no turning back from there. So. The best parts of being a firefighter are the adrenaline, the action, running into burning buildings. You're going into a fire and seeing red flames. So just helping people, giving them a better life, educating them, and just preserving their homes and their life for another day. Sometimes you work 24-hour shifts and you really get beat up. You know, you're running all day, you're going up and down stairs. I hate running, so I used to run to my friend's house. I used to run to places that I wanted to go to, so it made me run, you know. And we have families and people that rely on you every day, so if you're calling me for the little things, I'm here to help you. If you're calling me for the big things, I'm here to help you. And it's just about just holding a position that makes sure everybody gets home safely. A lot of people look at women as maybe not being able to do the job, not strong enough. So I was a little bit of a rebel, but I feel like being a rebel got me to where I am, and I don't regret any of the choices I made. And young men and young women will look at me and say, this little girl could do it, I can do it too. Yeah.
That was
I-
great, Amy. That was
Okay.
really great.
Yeah, I'm glad you like that. I hope that we get to share more of those stories through the American Mural Project, of course. But that's just one of many. And again, you know, I can give you all these slideshows and these images, and I have many more videos. Believe me, there are so many on the website. And our digital storywork interns have produced so many great stories themselves about work and about AMP. But there's nothing like seeing it in person. And, you know, if you're comfortable at this point in time during the path of the pandemic, you know, I do encourage you to come and visit on the 22nd or 23rd. I would suggest that you reserve in advance, only because the tours do fill up very quickly. But there's nothing like really seeing it in person. And again, it's important to note that when you do see it, you know, it's not fully installed. It's almost all fully installed. It's about 80% at this point. So there's a lot more to do, and it's been very exciting working there. It's been very exciting watching it come to become a reality, especially to see Ellen finally see her dream become a reality. So, you know, I do encourage you to come and join us in person. It's only about 30 minutes away from Falls Village.
This sounds like a really expensive project. How has all this been funded over 20 years?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. The AMP is both the mural and the institution. And as a nonprofit organization, just like any organization, it's funded both by private individual donors, by foundations, both corporate and private, family and corporate foundations, as well as government grants and sponsorships. And this, at this point in time, AMP's also supporting itself in a small way, soon to be growing, by earned revenue produced by the educational programs. And when we open in 2022, there will be admissions and merchandise and some other things as well. The building itself was funded largely by a bonded grant from the state of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development. And we were given a grant, $1 million, that we needed to raise $1.4 million to be awarded the state funding. And that allowed us to finish a portion of the construction for the current building, such that we would have a temporary certificate of occupancy that would allow for people to come in to the ground level floor not the upper platforms, the viewing platforms, but it would allow us to host some events. It would allow us to have some educational programs, and it would also allow Ellen and her crew to begin installing the project. So in answer to your question, the funding comes, just as with all nonprofits, from a little bit from earned revenue and a lot from contributed revenue from foundations, donations, and government grants. It's always a challenge, and especially when you are raising money both for capital and for operations.
Right, I'm sure. I feel like I'm hogging all the airwaves, but I have another question that's kind of related to the union organized labor question. There are a lot of political issues that surround the questions of work and the value of work, whether it's minimum wage or occupational safety and health or immigration or unions, whatever it is. It seems like the decision was made not to kind of touch on any of those in the mural itself. Do you anticipate that in any of these exhibitions or galleries going forward that there may be some touching on those kinds of questions or movements or forces that surround this question of work?
I don't believe that AMP will ever get involved in the political conversation about work. I think it will always surround it. It will always engage itself with the topic of the value of work. It actually comes down to some of the points that you've just made. So I think the most important thing that AMP will be getting behind is whatever angle people take, whether it's pro-union or anti-union, or whether it's minimum wage or a living wage, the important thing is, in the end, to value work and to value it by making sure that people are paid and recognized appropriately without getting into the political commentary about it, right down to the point of valuing work. To value the worker workers themselves, by making sure that they are safe and that they do have reasonable hours, etc., and reasonable conditions. So that all comes down to the valuing of workers. To devalue would be not what we would get interested in. We're not interested in having an economic discussion with people about it. We're not about power. It's really about, the solution is really about valuing your fellow community member and the type of job that they do. It's also about recognizing them to the point where you see them. You don't pass them on the street. You're in your car and someone's up there on the rigging, fixing something, and someone's stopping traffic to make sure everyone's safe. You don't only have to go by and about your business. You can wave, see them, see people, recognize them. When someone feels seen at their job, whether they're at a computer or they're up on a high point that you don't normally see, or they're in a truck, or they're behind a desk at a library. I mean, to walk past them, to take them for granted is not what we're about. We want people to open their eyes and recognize all those people who are doing important jobs all around them every day. Probably doesn't answer your question exactly.
No, it absolutely answers the question, because I think you're right that's the prerequisite, the starting point, the basis, the foundation for anything else is respecting work. And you respect work by really getting to know these people like Melissa, who, are doing these amazing jobs, and seeing how hard these jobs are and how much we depend on them is really critical. And so doing that from the perspective of art and getting the kids involved and the communities involved is really inspirational, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
thank
certainly
you,
have been inspired.
Amy. This is really wonderful. I want to encourage everybody. The Hunt Library does not charge for these presentations, and Amy has graciously not charged the Hunt Library for giving this presentation. But we encourage all of you, to the extent of your ability, to make any donations you can to the library and to the American Mural Project.
And come and visit us, see for yourself. And always go to the best library in the world, which is the M. Hunt Library.
Absolutely. So are there any more questions before we say good night? All right. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you
Bye,
very much.
everybody.
Take care.
Take care.